Oh, ooh. Traffic signs. For real, for real. I'm like, you know what I mean? Howdy y'all. Hey, how's it going? It's your boy Nate. I read books because reading is sexy, and if you're not reading, you're not sexy. Okay, here with some book updates. I'm finally ready to talk about this. Okay, y'all, did I mention that this made me physically ill? Like I had to step off the bus and take a break from life itself because life was doing too much and this was doing too much. Does so much in so little pages. Like you couldn't ask for a better book. But what this looks at is obsession on the tightrope between imagination and reality. And that tightrope, it snaps, it breaks. Oof, the ending of this book is just, oof. But I think is just as transgressive as The Sluts. I am disturbed. There are many very interesting kinks and God. Okay, I think the reason why I had such a big issue trying to figure out how to talk about this book, because content, that's why. There's stuff in here I really can't talk about, but up there with some of the most disturbing books I've ever read. But what I will say is Dennis Cooper was experimenting with autofiction before it became a quote-unquote thing. He inserts himself here and displays autobiographical parts, and that's where it's tricky because you don't know if he's actually into this stuff. Some of the stuff in here is really, really graphic in that his younger self, the character within the book, is introduced to this kink where the other person will pretend to be unalive with painted blood and all of this stuff, and the other person is erotically enamored by it and will take pictures of it. And thus our narrator here, Dennis, does it as well and gets a little carried away with it to a very, very startling extent. And I will not spoil the rest for you, but you know what I mean? But it's so strange because at some point you don't really know if it's all a game, if it's actually real, if it's imagined or real. And sort of reminds me, related, unrelated, but if anyone's seen Cronenberg's best work, which I believe is Existence, do it, watch it, it's a lot of fun. Plays with body horror and video games. The ending of that movie reminds me a lot of sort of the last act of this book. And it's so beautifully done in that you use young adolescent voice and then have it surpass some years and bond with such an alienated teen where you understand where his obsession of sex comes from and how that obsession is sort of cornered and antagonized and poked with the poker and is aggravated, and how it becomes this disturbing beast of quote-unquote obsession. I'm always curious about why characters do the things that they do. Where do they come from? And how did they get to certain points of their being? To see it all mapped out here as you follow through teenhood to when he gets a bit older, it's startling. This is apparently book 2 in the George Miles cycle. I think I will pick up Closer next if I get my hands on it. Boy, oh boy, this I think is up there with The Sluts. I enjoyed The Sluts a lot more. That's a weird thing to say. I didn't enjoy it. I just thought it was a very impactful read, and this was as well, and done in so few pages, which is why I think I found it so fascinating, but not for the faint of heart. But as my homegirl Hajin said, it's Gen X Bataille, and I added by way of Bret Easton Ellis autofic. Cooper did it first though, and this is tremendous in my opinion. If you love transgressive lit, this is not to be missed. Please pick this up. Frisk. Not a lot of people talk about this. Also, I try to look up YouTube reviews of this book, and there's literally zilch. There's one person who I will mention downstairs because I think he does fantastic work. He put up this really fun video about like 10 most disturbing books he's ever read. I'll link that one because that one's a lot of fun. He comes out of a dumpster. Yeah, I hope I did an okay job of talking about that. I feel like, you know, as I'm watching BookTube, I'm realizing I don't really do a very good job of talking about books, but I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, and I'm gonna try and do better. So after that, I finished Blueberries by Ellena Savage. I did this as a buddy read with Charlie, Grandpa's Book Club. He's fantastic. All of our thoughts and the thresholds that we're entering and just like the stuff we were thinking about in our own lives and like right now and in conjunction to this book has just been incredible. Charlie's so great. If you haven't subscribed, he's great. I love him. What I will say is this feels like being at a cafe with a friend and they're saying a lot of stuff. They're also saying a lot of stuff that you don't necessarily agree with, but then they'll throw in something funny and you think they're fucking hilarious. And then they say something like super smart and you're like, oh my God, this is why I'm friends with you. But there are stretching overgeneralizations within the book that Estella, if I went to her review after reading this and I saw some of the issues in her review that I saw from what I picked up in my own reading. But yeah, there are just these stretching overgeneralizations that I had issues with about motherhood, childbirth, and if you watch Estella, traffic signs. But yeah, I mean, our friends do that too. You know, they say things like the patriarchy and I hate men and just stuff like that. But then there's just these like strokes of brilliance that make Savage the writer that she is. And she's really witty. There are just some lines in here that are just delicious. And her readings of Acker and Dillard and just all these other different writers shows you that she's doing the good work. She's reading the good work. Enjoyed those portions the most. I think the last few essays in the book really look at the writing life from like a financial aspect, which I find so refreshing because I feel like most writers don't ever talk about the financial aspects of things and how she was like really blunt about struggling and being in between jobs and trying to find jobs and not being able to afford certain places and not being able to afford food at times. Was it better to, you know, have a meal or have a book? And there are just moments like that that like really makes you think like writing is such a privilege and you have to be in like a very great financial means in order to sustain the writing life because writing makes no money. It makes no money. It provides something for the soul and that's what makes it rewarding in a sense. So you have to be born with money, and I don't know if I've mentioned it before. I think I have in a wrap up, but I'll mention it again. Kieran sent me this article from Nylon magazine about the literary it girl in New York. In the article, Madeline Cash of Earth Angels, if you haven't read it, it's a lot of fun. She's asked, what do I need to be a writer? And I think she said you have to be a millionaire or something around those lines. And yeah, you just have to have a lot of money. In here, Savage mentions Acker, who I have yet to read, and I will get to her work. But there's a quote in there where she's 30, working at a cookie shop, and talks about the struggles of being a writer, but like after that, her grandmother dies, and she gets like $1 million, and then she never has to work for the rest of her life, because yeah, $1 million, and then is able to write. And it's just like, every writer needs money. Although I often think about like some of the writers that I love, one of which is Lucia Berlin, who worked odd jobs as a maid, sometimes 3 jobs at once, while supporting 3 boys, and dealt with alcoholism and still had time to write. And I'm just like, how did homegirl do it? But then again, like was under the radar her entire life, only became popular posthumous, which is quite sad, but it's interesting to see the struggles of other writers, financial struggles, which is so weird because in Berlin's work, it's never really, I think she focuses on the perseverance. Savage focuses on the struggles, while Lucia Berlin focuses on perseverance. She writes herself in some of her short stories where it's a woman, she's dealing with alcoholism and she's working as a maid. Yeah, there's always this like, this glimmer of hope that glides underneath the melancholy that encapsulates all of her stories and her characters, and never really talks about the money. I don't know if it's because of the times, but yeah, so glad Savage talks about that and is blunt about it. Most of the essays are written in very varying forms. Oh, why did I say it so rudely like that? They're written in very different forms from each other, and they don't all work necessarily. They're interesting, but they don't work all the time. And so this becomes sort of a disorganized, cluttered essay collection that just ends up feeling like a friend talking to you. Like if they're talking about a certain political issue, but you know they didn't do the reading and have only just read the headlines of articles, that's what it feels like. Yeah, that's where Savage comes from, and where some of the essays place themselves, because there isn't really a strong cohesion to some of the essays and how they all form together, minus I think about the writing life. But yeah, this was fine. I think 3 stars. So glad I read this with Charlie. He had such amazing thoughts. I can't wait for our next buddy read. Charlie, love ya. I'm still reading Kitchen Confidential. I'm in like the middle of it. I just finished this essay called Third Course, where he talks about working at a restaurant and eating oysters, shucking them, and dealing with a rat infestation, and how sometimes the rats will like collect bones and mashed potatoes and like the ends of vegetables, and if there was ever like a ceiling break or a leak, like all that junk would like come out, and it's disgusting. It's disgusting. But at this point, he already talks about his addiction to certain recreationals. Insane to me how his perseverance or his self then was able to manage these really stressful long hours and nights. And I have to read this portion for you. Oozing from sensation to sensation, I was a disgrace, a disappointment to friends and family and myself, and the drugs and the booze no longer chased that disappointment away. I could no longer bear even to pick up the phone. And he goes on to say, I was in hiding in a deep dark hole, and it was dawning on me as I cracked my oysters and opened clams and spooned cocktail sauce into ramekins that it was time, really time, to try to climb out. You really do get a sense of who Bourdain is in these years, and how we got to know him through TV shows. He's like this barrel whiskey, not aged with time, but with history, and such a spirit, like a forceful, musical, frenetic spirit, unmatched. With the end of every essay, I miss him more and more. He's just one of those people that like inspires me because of his drive, and I just admire that drive so much. He's like one of the reasons why New York is still a mecca of art, of creativity, of immense drive. And knowing me, I don't think I could ever handle New York because it's exhausting and people are way too driven, and then you get into that weird game of like competition and you compare yourselves to these people, and you're just like, how can I just be myself? Like, how can I just work at my own pace? Whatever that pace is, I don't think I could ever survive New York. I love New York, I really do. I love visiting and I love all my friends there, but it's just like, I don't think I could ever live or survive in New York. But that's where everything happens. That's where like the Gertrude Stein salons still exist. That's where things are breeding. And I think you could say the same thing about LA or any other metropolitan, but LA, I think, is just, it just has that ease. It has a slower pace. There's this nonchalance and like blasé essence to it that makes LA, LA. It's also the heat. There's something very much more relaxed about it. I don't know. When you talk about like, in Korean, you can't really ask somebody like, what's your dream city? You have to ask it in the form of like, 어디 사고 싶어요, which means like, where do you want to live? They're not the same, I don't think, because it's like, I don't know if my dream is my want, you know what I mean? I think my dream is a need, and I think that's the difference. I think then the question has to be, where do you need to live? Which doesn't come off as right in translation, but like, I don't know, there's this urgency. There's this urgency, and Bourdain lives with this urgency. It's just so ingrained in his spine, in his very spirit, and I think that's why I liked him. Anyway, didn't know this was gonna be a jack-off sesh to Anthony Bourdain, but here we are. But no, I love the man so much. This just almost feels like a Bible. Like I want to keep this with me. If I have this on my shelf, it's just like one of those books that I feel like I could return to and still enjoy it to its fullest, because Bourdain just has this like swiftness in his voice. And Ellena did mention, I think in a wrap-up, that she really enjoyed the audiobook. So I think I will, if I do a reread of this, I'll do the audiobook, because I would really like to hear this in his voice. I've just been like reading it in his voice, and it's like, I can hear it. Like I did the raspy voice, it's in there. It's like right there. Love him so much. Anthony Bourdain, Kitchen Confidential. Over the weekend, I went to a sample sale, and I didn't think I'd buy anything, but I did, because I'm doing a little farewell dinner this weekend for a friend, and I wanted to get him something nice. I won't show it. Maybe I will. Okay. I mean, it doesn't hurt, right? Do you even watch these? I don't think you do. Yeah, I'm speaking to you. Yeah, I got him. So, have I talked about this? Yes, it's called No Points. This Korean brand that has now gone defunct and turned into something else that I don't particularly like anymore. I do sort of like their fun... What do you call these? What do I want to call them? What do you call those things that are fake on the market that are just there for fun? Oh my god. Anyway, they do these like fun play-ons of like major brands. Here's Miu Miu, and the logo is backwards, and that's what's fun about it. It's either backwards or upside down or flipped, and it's just really fun. But they still had like a few stuff from their older collection, and I was like, oh my god. Because you can't find them anywhere else, and if you try and buy it resale in Korea, it's like upwards $200, and where this was like literally a quarter of the price, which was great. So I snagged him this because he's leaving, and I think this would be a really cute hat because I also have it, and it's also because our favorite influencer has it, and I love him. I love him, and I love wearing the stuff that he wears because it makes me feel like I'm closer to him, and that's really disgusting. Because let me tell you, when I was reading I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel, and that was like, that little bit was mentioned, like a little thing like that was mentioned, and I was like, ugh, I'm so gross. Anyway, I also picked something up for myself because I just love all their hats, and I was just like, I'm never ever gonna see these again. But I got this fun Hermes orange cap. I just love the burnt orange. You know, it's fun. It's fun. I think a loud hat to a pretty basic outfit really does make your outfit stand out tremendously without doing any real work at all. It's just like one big fun color, and it's on your head. It protects you from the sun. It's low effort, wham bam to an outfit. The logo's upside down, and it's fun. It's just a fun stitch on top. I think my other fun hat in terms of like a wham bam color is this fun purple one. They make merch for like LA Table Tennis Club, and I just love the purple with the red. It's just a really fun pop of color. Like if you're just like, if you have like a simple black blazer with like a baby blue shirt button up underneath, pair of black jeans, top it off with this. So fun, so fun. Elevates the look. Definitely like makes it a lot more casual, but elevates it. Got this. And yeah, just lots of fun, ain't it? Ain't it? I'm like right now because I like swallowed the last like half of my cold brew because I forgot I had it. And I was like, oh, I want to finish this before I leave the office. So I just downed it, and now I'm just like, whoa. And I think that's why I decided to talk about these books today. Thanks for being here, y'all. Why do I do this? I'm gonna have such an ass time editing this, so I'll stop now. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to me blabber. watching these lips just like, for real. Like, honestly, y'all, your presence means so much. Also, leave a comment. Like, say whatever you want, because I'll respond. Because, you know what? I'm a real person. I'm a real person, and I'm gonna respond. Because I'm real. I'm real. Like, don't let the editing fool you, you know? I'm not like this pristine packaged thing. Okay, I said I do edit out my ums, okay? I do say a lot, and, you know, it's so strange. The number of times I've sat down on the editing table, I've not yet learned to just cut out entirely. And that's just like... Anyway, I love you all. Be well, do good work, keep in touch.